The starship groans like a dying beast, its hull splitting apart in a storm of fire and twisted metal. Sergeant Kael Voss tumbles into the black, his body spinning helplessly as the oxygen in his suit ticks down to nothing. The void swallows the sound of his ragged breaths, but the voice in his helmet cuts through the silence like a knife. "You can't die, Kael, they won't let you." The words crackle with static, but the threat is clear. Before he can answer, the darkness swallows him whole, then hands, cold metal fingers clamp around his arms, dragging him into the belly of a salvage ship. The face leaning over him is hidden in shadow, but the whisper sends a chill down his spine. "We've been waiting for you." The mystery of his survival begins here, in the belly of a ship that shouldn't exist, with a crew that knows too much. And somewhere in the void, the truth waits hungry. The sterile white light burns Kael's eyes as consciousness slams back into him. Cold metal presses against his bare skin, restraints biting into his wrists and ankles. A masked figure looms over him, gloved hands adjusting dials on a machine that hums with unnatural energy. "You are Asset 7, the scientist says, voice devoid of emotion. "Every death is data." The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Memories flood Kael's mind. A training exercise gone wrong, his heart stuttering to a stop for 37 agonizing seconds before lurching back to life. The same scientist had watched through glass then, murmuring, "Interesting, it's adapting." Now, strapped to this table, the truth crashes over him. He's not a soldier. He's a specimen. Rage ignites in Kael's chest. "I'm not your experiment," he snarls, yanking against the restraints. A guard steps forward, blaster raised. Then the weapon malfunctions, discharging point blank into Kael's torso. Agony erupts as his chest caves inward, the world dissolving into white noise, but death doesn't take him. Instead, his vision swims back to the lab, the scientist nodding as if satisfied. Death 10,001, proceed. The horror of it coils around Kael's throat. He's died before, he'll die again, and they're watching, measuring, learning. Before he can process the nightmare, alarms shriek through the facility. Someone's coming, someone who doesn't belong here. The scientist's mask tilts toward the door, and for the first time, Kael hears something like fear in that clinical voice. Secure the asset, but the guards are already moving too late. The door explodes inward, and the real fight begins. The chaos of the lab's breach fades into the roar of engines as Kael finds himself hurled into the belly of a rebel ship, the sterile white walls replaced by rusted metal and flickering emergency lights. A woman with sharp eyes and a scar across her cheek leans over him, Jara, leader of the Void Reapers. She doesn't offer sympathy, only a data pad shoved into his hands. "You're a prototype," she says, voice low and urgent. The screen displays a bounty notice with his face, the words, "Asset 7, Resurrection Tech Priority Extraction," glowing in bold red. "Every warlord in the galaxy wants what's inside you," Jara adds, tapping his chest. "And we're going to use that to burn them all down. The plan is simple. Infiltrate the dreadnought of Warlord Vexus, the butcher of the Orion Belt, and sabotage his fleet." Kael's resurrection tech makes him the perfect weapon, expendable, unstoppable. But as they slip through the dreadnought's defenses, something feels off. Jara's commands are too precise, her glances too calculated. Then, in the shadow of the ship's reactor core, she spins on him, her blaster leveled at his heart. "Sorry, soldier," she mutters, and before he can react, the airlock hatch slams open behind him. The vacuum of space yanks him backward, his skin freezing, his lungs collapsing. Vexus's grinning face flashes on a viewscreen. "Payment received, Jara." Darkness swallows Kael until light floods his vision once more. He gasps awake in the rebels' med bay, tubes snaking from his arms, Jara perched on a crate nearby, chewing on a protein bar. "Had to be sure you were the real thing," she says casually, as if she hadn't just murdered him. Kael's fist cracks into her jaw before she can blink. "Next time, ask," he growls, shaking out his aching hand. Jara spits blood, then laughs. Fair enough, the tension between them lingers, but the truth is clear. Vexus betrayed her too. Now their alliance has teeth. With stolen coordinates and a ship rigged for silent running, they plot their next move, the lab that made Kael, the place where scientists turned soldiers into experiments, is their target. Jara traces a route through the dead zone, a graveyard of derelict warships. "They'll see us coming," Kael warns. Jara's grin is all edges. "Let them." As the engines hum to life, Kael realizes the horror of his existence isn't just the dying. It's the fact that someone, somewhere, is always watching. And this time, he's going to make them regret it. The ship's engines hum like a distant storm as Kael stares at the star chart, the coordinates of the lab burning into his retinas. But something's wrong. The numbers blur, then shift suddenly. He's not in the cockpit. He's knee-deep in the mud of a battlefield he's never seen, the air thick with smoke and the screams of dying soldiers. A plasma round tears through his chest, and he chokes on blood only to blink back into his seat, Jara shaking his shoulder. "You're zoning out again," she snaps, but her eyes flicker with unease. The visions worsen, a siege on a frozen moon, a suicide charge against Mech walkers, deaths that aren't his but feel like they should be. Then, in the ship's dim cargo hold, the air grows cold. A figure materializes from the shadow's armor pitted with ancient scars, a face that's his own, but older, wearier. The ghost doesn't speak at first, just watches. When it finally moves, its voice is a rasp like metal grinding on bone. "You're my echo, Kael, the 10,000th copy." The original Kael, the real Kael, steps into the light. A soldier centuries old, his body preserved by the same resurrection tech that now traps his clones in an endless cycle. "Every time you die, they don't bring you back," the ghost says, tapping Kael's chest. "They print a new you, your memories, your rage, all just data uploaded into fresh meat." The revelation hits like a bullet. The lab wasn't studying survival. It was farming soldiers. The ghost's hand phases through Kael's wrist, icy as vacuum. "I tried to stop them, burned the first lab, the second, the third." His hollow laugh sends a shiver down Kael's spine. "But you can't kill an idea, only the men who believe in it." The original Kael's image flickers, his form dissolving at the edges. And this, burn the lab, not for revenge, for the next poor bastard they'll turn into a weapon. Jara finds him minutes later, gripping a support beam so hard the metal creaks. She doesn't ask, just watches as he pulls up the lab schematics, a fortress orbiting a black hole, its core labeled Soul Forge. "Hell's waiting," she mutters, cracking her knuckles. Kael doesn't answer. His reflection in the viewscreen shows a stranger, a ghost wearing his face. But when the engines roar to life, his hands are steady. Somewhere in the dark, the original Kael whispers, "Make it count." The fortress looms ahead, a jagged silhouette against the swirling black hole that devours the light around it. The lab isn't just a building, it's a tomb, orbiting the edge of oblivion. Kael's fingers tighten around the ship's controls as Jara loads the last of the explosives. "Remember," she mutters, "we're not here to fight, we're here to burn it all down." The defenses kick in before they even breach the outer hull. Turrets scream to life, plasma fire slicing through the void. Kael dodges, but not fast enough. A blast shears off half the ship's wing. Alarms wail, but he doesn't flinch. Death isn't a threat anymore, it's the reason they're here. Inside, the corridors twist like a maze, walls pulsing with a sickly glow. The air hums with energy, the kind that prickles your skin and whispers in your bones. Jara kicks open a sealed door, and there it is, the core, the soul forge, a monstrous machine, its center a swirling vortex of light and shadow, hungrier than the black hole outside. The original Kael's warning echoes in his skull. It won't let you leave. Then the scientist steps into view, the same masked figure from the lab, but now his body is a grotesque fusion of flesh and machine, wires snaking from his ribs, his eyes replaced by flickering screens. Asset 7, he rasps, voice distorted like a broken transmission. You were always the most persistent. Kael raises his gun, but the scientist laughs. You think bullets matter here, the forge feeds on souls, yours is just fuel. A blade of pure energy erupts from the floor, impaling Kael through the chest. He gasps, but this time the pain doesn't fade, no reset, no rebirth. Blood pools in his mouth as the scientist leans in. No more copies, this time you end. Jara screams his name, but the sound is drowned out by the forge roaring to life, its maw widening, pulling everything toward it. Light, metal, even the air itself. Kael's vision darkens at the edges, but he sees it, the ship's wreckage, still tethered to the docking bay. One last chance. With a final burst of strength, he slams his fist into the emergency release. The ship lurches forward, engines screaming as it plows into the forge's core. The explosion is silent in the vacuum, but the light, it's blinding. For a moment, Kael swears he sees them. All 10,000 versions of himself, their faces flickering in the fire. Then nothing. When the darkness clears, Jara is dragging him from the wreckage, her hands shaking. The lab is gone, the forge is gone, but as Kael looks down at the scar on his chest, the one that didn't heal, he knows the truth. Somewhere in the vast, uncaring cosmos, the cycle isn't over. It's only just begun.